In this example, we'll be talking about group assignments. Under my assignments topic, you see that I have a group assignment already created. I'm just going to select that group assignment. I'm just going to go straight to edit settings so I can show you how to enable that group submission option. I want to expand all, and I want to scroll all the way down to group submission. As you can see here, if this was no, then you would not see any of the additional options. But now that we changed it to a group submission, you have these available options. The grouping for student groups is really is only used for if you have students that are going from one group to another. Because you have groups that may change, you may want to create a grouping and assign those students to those groups. However, if you have a situation where you only have groups 1 to 4 and you have students in those groups that have already been defined and entered in the background in your group section under participants, then what you can do is you can just leave this as none. And what I do recommend is selecting yes for required group to make submissions. If this is selected as no, then you may have students that may not be in groups. They may be missed for whatever reason. It can happen, and it has happened. But if there's no student in a group, then what Moodle does, or eClass does, is it puts them into a default group. And that default group essentially is no group at all. So you might have some students that appear. So for example, you might have, let's say, 5 students that aren't in any group. And because you don't have this enabled, so if this is selected as no, then that student, any student without a group, can submit. And because all those students have no group, it will register as a default group, so that one student that submits will submit on all those students' behalf. So we don't want that to happen, essentially. We want to select yes, so that way eClass looks for students that are in groups, and it ensures that those students who submit on behalf of their teammates are in a group. By enabling students submit in groups, yes, it allows one student to submit on the group's behalf. Another option to take into consideration is requiring students to click the submit button. So what this means is that if you were to select yes, and then you select require all group members to submit, then that means that each individual group member would have to select the submit button in order for their assignment to be uploaded for grading. So of course, you can see that this might be problematic. So in which case, you want to ensure that this is no. And so this is not required. So the takeaway is, if you have a group submission, you want to enable require group to make that submission. You want to also enable this first so that students can submit in groups. And that means that one person can submit on their group's behalf. And of course, if you have several groups that may change, you can group them into a grouping. And then you can enable the grouping function by using this option here. This is rarely used. Most of the times, groups are predefined. And so these options, these settings, yes, yes, are usually what is selected. And then you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Of course, taking in consideration that you set the the open and close date and all those previous settings that we spoke about in previous examples, and you want to save and return to the course. Once it is saved and you're on your main course page, you can select the group assignment activity, and you can see here that there are 3 groups, and you also have the option that they must be in groups to make the submission. And that's it. Your assignment is set up for group submissions.